What if courage isn't something that you find, but something you recover? Not the loud, cinematic kind, but the quiet kind that shows up when you stop pretending you are okay. When you tell the truth you have been avoiding. When you choose the hard conversation. When you sit with the part of you have spent years trying to outrun. Because most of us listeners, we don't struggle with knowing what to do. We struggle with the courage to do it consistently when nobody is clapping, when nobody is watching. And today, on this episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, we are exploring a question that can, honestly, it can change a life. What if courage is not a trait, but a primary aim of being human? And what if your shadow, the paths you hide, deny, or judge, is not your enemy, but your gateway to your highest courage? So, listeners, welcome to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. This is a space for honest human conversations about healing, growth identity, and what it takes to stay emotionally real in a world that, normally promotes performance. I'm your host, Sana, and today's conversation, listeners, is about courage, not as a motivation, but as a practice. And what changes when we stop fighting our inner shadow and we start listening to it. And joining me, listeners, is Simon Lee. And, listeners, what I appreciate about this topic is it does sound inspiring, yes. But then, to be honest, it's actually messy in real life. Courage is rarely clean. So, with that, let's get into the conversation, listeners. And Simon, welcome to the show. And I'm really, really glad you're here and you're bringing up this topic and conversation for all of us.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure. And what a wonderful introduction there.
Oh, thank you so much, Simon. And it's personally really surprising for me as well to some extent because all I know about courage is, that kind of the personality that you are always up for the challenges, you're boisterous, you are physically and mentally ready. But yeah, I the years as I spend my years in this journey, I think and I get to realize that it's whole lot different from what we usually see maybe in the movies or in the popular media.
I think so. I think there's a mix between courage and bravery.
Yes. Yes.
It can be done to impress people. It can be done to elevate yourself in society. But courage is service. It's love. It's doing the right thing even when no one's looking. It's much, much bigger. And I think
Yes.
it is an internal trait of humanity. I think it's one of the most beautiful traits we can establish within ourselves.
Absolutely. That's very, very beautifully put, Simon, to begin with. And before we dive deeper into the topic, Simon, um, our listeners would love to know a bit more about you. So if you can, share a bit about yourself with all of us.
Course. So my journey started in childhood. I didn't choose to be a coach of courage. I had a very difficult childhood. There was abuse in the family, and it left me feeling very broken as a young man. So I embarked on a philosophical path to try and find my own way, and that led to helping other people. Um, so I've been doing this for nearly 35 years now, which seems extraordinary to say it out loud. But it's been a big journey, and I help mainly teenage boys and children and men as well. So I brought in lots of philosophies from the old traditions and put it into a format where I can really help people not just move past their trauma, but live a beautiful, meaningful life of courage and service and purpose.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm really happy that you shared about you because normally people when they introduce themselves in fact including me, I'll be very honest, we would love to share about our titles, our roles, our accolades. I've done this, I've got awarded this, that. But what you shared is actually the human side of your journey in there. And I believe personally that your lived experiences, they shaped your purpose. And especially when you put courage in perspective, in the context of masculinity, I think it becomes more and more important to um, have the clarity in there that how exactly courage is not defined, but what exactly courage mean in there. So I'm really glad once again that you are bringing up this topic, this conversation. And to begin with, Simon, when people say that be courageous, it can sound like a poster on a wall. um, so how do you define courage in real life? Like, what makes it different from confidence or fearlessness or even bravery, as you mentioned in the beginning?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, confidence is being good at something. So I could be a really good cook and be confident in my ability to cook. But courage is about being a complete human being. It's loving, doing the right thing. It's righteousness without it being forced. So courage has to be in all area of life. I think we have this idea that we can compartmentalize certain aspects
Mm.
of our life and ignore the rest. But courage demands that you cannot do that. It demands that you're congruent within each and every part of you. So you have to be a responsible father. You have to be a dutiful and protective husband. You have to be a pillar of society so that when you act, you're acting for the greater good. You're acting for the benefit of that society, not just for yourself, which is a big mission at the moment because we do live in a self-obsessed world. We're encouraged to do that. Even at school, they're told, just go after your dreams, be the best you can. It's a dog-eat-dog world. We're told these sorts of things in childhood, and none of it's actually true. The only way to have a really meaningful life of courage is to understand that we are the world and we can create it with every action, every behavior. And that excites me. And it gives me open motivation for the future. Because if we can adopt courage and reveal it as that human trait that you cannot, as Maya Angelou said a long time ago, you cannot practice any other virtue consistently without courage because it keeps them all together. It keeps them all congruent. And that to me is inspirational to know that we can change the world by our own behavior because we think we're so powerless. We think there's only one of us. There's nothing we can do to change the world and the problems within it. But it's just simply not true because we cannot talk about society without including each and every one of us within it because we all make up society as individuals. So we can make a choice how we want the world to be and to be that part of it that we want to see.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because um, if we look, if we think about courage from today's perspective, today's day and age, I believe that most of us, we are right now being driven by this intrinsic motivation of, you know, not motivation, but this fear that we say something out loud, which is actually right, something that has been done wrong to us, not individually, but as humans, then uh, we are fearful of the consequences. But a person who is aware about those consequences and still taking that decision, I mean, I'm seeing examples out there, Simon, that people, they know about the consequences, they know about the collateral damage in there, but they still are taking that decision. They're courageous enough to take that decision because there is definitely a bigger, uh, not mission, but there's definitely a bigger calling in there. There's definitely a bigger purpose in there in doing that. And it may not be done immediately, but then, you know, they still do it anyway.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think the more we see the opposite, because we are very, very motivated, inspired by the opposite of when we sink down too low. So, I mean, I can only speak for the UK now, but in the UK, we have got a moral degradation taking place. Uh, we're leaving virtues, and there's no respect or discipline there used to be, and we're seeing the result of that. And I think seeing the result of that motivates people to explore the opposite, is to reestablish courage and love and respect and integrity. But there's just so much fear, and it's that fear that stops people being courageous and loving fully. And I don't speak about courage separately from love. I do think they are intrinsically linked. But it reminds me of the great Rumi poet, where he said that fear knocked on the door of love and love opened the door and there was no one there, because they can't coexist. So overcoming fear and knowing what to do and knowing what's right, you start to actually reveal and create love and courage within yourself. So I always look at fear as that complete barrier that's blocking you from not just your utmost potential as a human being, but it blocks the actual qualities in life you're actually looking for. So overcoming fear is a massive thing. So I do agree with you that that fear just blocks the highest qualities we've got within us, and we've all got them. But fear is that barrier. It's like fear's got two forces. It's one pulling you forward, is to say, if I overcome fear, I'm going to find things out about me I never knew and reveal these qualities. But it's also pulling you back, saying, oh, it's unknown out there. Go back. Don't go forward. It's scary. Go back to what you know. Don't stretch yourself too far. And part of our life actually encourages us to do that. But courage demands that we put ourselves forward. And I think that what I found is that the more we do overcome our fears, the more we stretch ourselves, we start to realize the only way we can really fully know ourselves and actually even enter into our full potential is by overcoming fear. And the more we do it, the more we actually find out about who we are. I don't think we can even find out who we are on this planet unless we face our fears and start to cultivate courage deliberately day by day. And once again, I find that exciting prospect. I understand why people avoid it. I do. I understand people think it looks so scary. But actually, if you don't face it, what I found is if you don't live a life of courage, you do slide to the opposite. I don't see there's a middle ground. I don't see there's any sitting on the fence. I see there is a slide to the opposite, and it just happens sometimes unconsciously. You just end up becoming more cowardly and observing wrong deeds in your life and around you and normalizing them because you haven't got a deliberate aim towards courage and love. And that's what I find fascinating. It's almost like if you don't live the best life you can, don't face your fears, you will gravitate towards the opposite. And I think once people understand that, they think, I have to do this for myself and for my society.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what that's kind of becomes it becomes a differentiating factor, that you're not just um, thinking about your own problems, but something that transcend the walls of your own um, world, and it moves to, it's for the bigger, the greater society out there. It's affecting your people, it's affecting your country, it's affecting your, I mean, it's affecting the humanity. I mean, uh, if we talk about um, climate crisis, or we talk about environment, there are people out there who are, I mean, they may not be very much popular. We may not even know them because they're not busy out there doing their PR or their social media activities, but they're actually doing the work on the ground.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And I'd see some people doing amazing things that
Yeah.
people don't know who they are, but that I think the rewards for them are they knowing they're making a difference. And but one of the problems is, I think some people don't want that responsibility. But it's not like we haven't got any choice. You have that responsibility anyway. So many men I speak to, they say, I don't want to be responsible for the whole world. I don't want to be responsible for my society, and I want to do my own thing. And I always say, you have no choice, because you're impacting your world anyway for yourself and your children. It's not actually a choice. It seems like it's a choice, but you're going to impact the world anyway. So if you want to be selfish, lie, cheat, and steal and be manipulative, then you must know that that will be reflected right back at you, because you're creating that environment through your actions. And none of us are that important where we say, well, I don't want that to apply to me. You just don't get the choice. Creating your environment, and that's where you really start to tread down that road of courage. I'm going to take responsibility for my society, my environment. And parents know this. As soon as you have children, your life is no longer your own. You've got a startup there, not a business startup. You've got a startup of a very young life or more, which you now have to take responsibility for and nurture them into responsible adults. But I say we can be that earlier, that if we don't have children, we can do that right from the beginning. And that's why that removal of the rite of passage that a man used to go through, and a woman, where the tribe decided when the boy would become a man out of necessity and what he stood for, what his responsibilities were to that tribe, to the environment, protect the women, protect the children, make sure the elderly are looked after. I mean, this goes back to even Native American Indians. I remember reading about Crazy Horse.
Yeah.
And they said to him, make sure you want to lead, because this is what it involves. You have to take less than anybody else. You have to feed the women and children first, and the elderly, before yourself. This is your duty. We haven't got that anymore. And I think it's a shame, because I think it gives a man such a code like that, such a rite of passage, gives a man real meaning in his life. He knows he has value before he's even achieved anything, just for simply being here and being part of that community. And I think that's an incredible thing to have. And I look at many of the young boys in the I can only speak of the UK and across Europe, and they haven't got that anymore. They're lost before they start. In fact, I've got men at 32 years old still asking, am I a man yet?
Mm.
And it's tragic. It's very sad.
Yes, it is. And I know, I mean, we do have a time constraint, but I believe that this is another important aspect that you wanted to bring up here, like, especially around our shadows. Now, once again, the kind of picture that gets created in our mind when we talk about shadows is mostly the gray areas. Um, they either would romanticize it or get confused, or they may completely think a different idea, which is like my alter self. So when you say especially inner shadow in there, Simon, what are we actually talking about, and how does meeting that inner shadow create more courage?
Yeah, that's a really good question again. That shadow we speak about is those deep, repressed, emotional parts of us that we keep hidden. And it could be where we feel shamed as a child, where we're made to feel guilty about something. And we've got these components of it inside, and we think, I'm not going to let them out in the outside world. I need to keep them suppressed and hidden down, because we think we're ashamed of them. And so we don't show them to the outside world. But here's the thing that everyone needs to understand. They will come out anyway. Unless we turn around and face them, they come out at the worst possible moment. That could be road rage. It could be violence. It could be uncontrollable anger. That's the way of the shadow trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
So we turn into it and we look at it for what it is. And this takes a bit of work. But basically, what I can say is that if we look at the shadow, we invite it up and get to know it. And you can do specific techniques to facilitate this. It will actually fight for you, because what you don't want the shadow to do is be captain of your ship. You don't. You want the better qualities of you. It's a bit like George Gurdjieff, the philosopher, once said that everyone thinks they're one personality, but we have 100 different personalities inside us, all baying for attention. And a lot of these are dark forces. So the key is to get them on a leash and pull them out when they're needed. And that could be a difficult confrontational situation. It could be standing up for what's right when no one else will. That's the power of the shadow. But if you don't face the shadow, you end up people pleasing. You end up keeping quiet. You end up suppressing. You end up getting seriously ill, actually, because the body takes the impact of what we won't face. So when we face the shadow and incorporate it into us, we end up being more courageous. We can love more and love fully, including ourselves. We have more integrity because we can pull out this dark force and it will fight for you in the most difficult circumstances. But it must never, ever be the captain of the ship. And that happens when we don't face it. And it comes out in the worst possible moments. And I see this a lot. This is why we go, one of our biggest sections is called the inner battle that we teach. It's about facing your dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about it, all the heroes we look at on screen, James Bond, Harry Potter, they've all got really potent dark sides, all of them. But yet they've learned how to control it, utilize it, and use it as a form of good. The other side of that is the gangster, the murderer, and the people on screen that we also watch. They can't master that dark side. And so it's in control of the man, and it's allowed to do the worst things, which is what we're seeing around the world at the moment, is it not?
Okay.
Clearly haven't mastered their dark side, and that it's captain of the ship, and it's being given a prolific voice in the world. And we see that everywhere. So it's really important to face those dark sides of us, that anger, that deep sense of shame about who we are, some of our traits, what we do, and to bring them up and have an intimate conversation and understanding and connection with it so that we can integrate it into us, get rid of the shame, and it'll actually fight for us. And it can fight for a better society as well. So it's a really important subject.
It is. It is. 100%. 100%. Simon, I wish we'd had more time, but I'm very, very, very sure, even if all the listeners, but you know, few of them, will definitely be so eager to dive deeper into this, and they would love to connect with you as well. So what's the best medium to do that?
Just visit the website, which is www.unlimitedcourage.com, and all our work's on there.
Super. Listeners, what I'm going to do there is have all the links mentioned in the show notes so that you can connect with Simon and just refer to them. Find the show notes attached along with this episode on whichever platform you are tuning into your Healthy Mind, Healthy Life podcast right now. And and if you are listening and you feel called out by this conversation, gently, I just want to say you're not behind. Sometimes you're not lazy, you're not broken, you are just at the edge of something real. And that edge, listeners, asks for courage. And if the shadow has been showing up in your life, maybe through patterns, triggers, shame spirals, avoidance, maybe it's not there to punish you. Maybe it's there to point you back to what you are ready to reclaim. And Simon, thank you so much because
Thank you.
you really brought depth and honesty in here, and you did not make courage sound like a performance here. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon. And thank you to all the listeners for tuning into this episode. I really appreciate you, all of you being a part of this beautiful Healthy Mind, Healthy Life community. And if this episode gave you language for something you have been living silently, follow us, follow Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, not because we have the perfect answers. We don't, but because you deserve a space where healing is talked about real life. Non-linear, messy, meaningful, but human. So until next time, this is your host Sana, and you have been listening to Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you.